Hey everybody, welcome into another edition of Lunch Hour Live. I'm Sue O'Connell with WGBH. We're here at the Boston Public Library at the Newsfeed Cafe, and we are celebrating Women's History Month by continuing to talk to women who are making history right now in our neighborhoods. And we're going to speak with three outstanding women from one of, I say this every week, so don't take it, too much to heart, but one of Boston's best neighborhoods, if not the best neighborhood, Dorchester. Am I right?
You are right.
So I'm going to ask you each to introduce yourself and tell us why you're here.
Sure. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Annissa Essaibi-George. I'm very proud to be a Dorchester girl, born and raised, and an at-large city councilor representing the entire city of Boston.
Maria?
Hi, I'm Maria Vertkin, and I'm not from here originally. I've lived in 2 other countries before coming here, but I run a nonprofit in Fields Corner, Dorchester, that trains low-income bilingual women to be professional medical interpreters.
Teresa?
I'm Teresa Maynard, owner of Sweet Teez Bakery, and I'm based out of Commonwealth Kitchen. I'm in Dorchester making delicious treats.
Indeed you are. We met a long time ago when you
Yes.
first started out, and I'm so thrilled to see you're still making delicious treats. They look even better than before.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor, I just want to start with you to give us an overview of Dorchester. It's the biggest neighborhood in the city, right?
It is the largest neighborhood in the city, and if it were its own city, it would be the 3rd largest in the state.
Wow.
It's really a great place.
What's the makeup of Dorchester these days?
Dorchester is one of the most diverse neighborhoods in our city, and it probably always has been. It is a place where we have seen great sort of tides of different immigrant groups come through, and my family landed in Dorchester. My mother is Polish, born in Germany after World War II, and my grandparents decided to make Dorchester their home many, many years ago, and my dad came as an adult from North Africa. I will say Dorchester's got a few different acronyms that we use. We use DOT. I've got a DOT sticker on my car. But we also say Dorchester by choice and OFD, originally from Dorchester. Whether you're still there, you leave somewhere else.
Whether it's by choice or originally from, you still count.
Yeah, it still counts, and I think that though speaks to that Dorchester by choice and that originally from both apply to me. I think that speaks volumes to how important Dorchester is as a community in our city.
Maria, I want to talk a little bit about Found in Translation and what a rich resource you have by being in Dorchester for what you do. We're going to start off though by taking a look at a clip, a little primer on what your organization does. Let's take a look.
Bila lugha. Sin el idioma.
Without language.
Sans langage.
من غير اللغة الواحد ما فينوش يحكي مع العالم.
Mtu hawezi kuongelesha watu na kuwaelewa.
Yon mpaka partager espoir no espérance no. يتعرف على تاريخهم.
Apreciar su poesía.
Ou apprécier le goût, apprécier goût chant qui sorti la caille no.
Interpreters change everything for a patient who can't speak the same language as the doctor. Basic things that we take for granted, like having a diagnosis that incorporates your medical history, is something that you can't have if you don't speak the same language as the doctor, and there's nobody to interpret for you.
Alors, non, moi c'est Marie, c'est moi-même qui interpréter pour aujourd'hui.
As an interpreter, you have to be impartial and you have to not try to impose any sort of bias in the words.
You are serving a function that is helping both the doctor and the patient.
A family member or, the secretary who happens to speak that language is not going to be trained in that.
Found in Translation trains low-income bilingual women to be professional medical interpreters and to get jobs that pay them a high wage using their language skills while helping both their families get out of poverty and helping patients to access medical care.
We try to reach the communities that we want to serve. So we'll go and put flyers up in laundromats, on billboards, wherever.
This is something that happens across the board. Somebody will come to the U.S. from another country and immediately lose status. The degree that they have won't count. They won't have the same standing in society as they did before, and eventually that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I found a flyer and I was like, it's free. I was like, I must find this. So I called them and here I am.
Programs like Found in Translation have many more applicants than they have space. They have a wonderful and rigorous interview process.
Renal is the kidneys,
And add is
Two words.
CHI means Certified Healthcare Interpreter.
The quality of an interpreter is really important, and while I wish we had the internal resources to provide an in-depth training for interpreters, it's resource impossible.
Moi vle fò konnen que tout ça qui dit là ap interprété, tout ça qui répété là ap été confidentiel.
This is an opportunity for them to use their language skills to find some self-worth.
Oh my God, my life is so beautiful now. So after I graduated, I started looking for a job with the help, of course, of Funding Translation, a lot of support. They brought agencies. They told us how to, they help us with the resume.
We've seen a number of graduates getting staff positions at hospitals. Other people prefer to branch out into different fields. I've thought of doing some more work as a legal interpreter just to help people that are struggling to find hope in this country.
It's not just higher income, it's not just having a job, it's also being able to be a professional again and to be respected for what you bring to the table.
Maria, that's amazing. I interact a lot with the medical community, and the importance of having a trained translator rather than your child or a friend or just someone who can speak the language is so important, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And what's the diversity, the resource that you have being in Dorchester must give you the availability to access so many different language speakers, right? What compelled you to do this?
I think what compelled me originally is my own story, my own two immigrations, and being, watching the grown-ups in my life struggle to navigate everything from getting a car loan to getting medical care, that sort of thing, and being in a position as a child to help grown-ups navigate these mazes that they should know how to do but don't, and that I should have nothing to do with and shouldn't know how to do, but am in a position to lead. So just like having those experiences formatively growing up, and then working here as a social worker and discovering so many other women who'd had very similar stories to mine in my own families. And that's kind of what brought me into this work.
And this is one of those things that once you see that it exists, you can't believe that it didn't really exist to the degree that it did before. We're here in Boston, the hub of the medical universe for the most part. We have this great, rich tapestry of folks who have come here who are displaced, many of whom are very well educated and left great jobs, and are very articulate in their own language and in English, and therefore just with some really great training can turn into a great career.
Exactly, and not only that, but it's a great career for women in particular. It's not a male-dominated profession, it's a flexible profession. There's a lot of freelance and per diem work, which is great for mothers and single mothers even, with a lot of jobs that people have that are low-wage jobs, where they're replaceable, it's low-skilled, it's very easy to just fire somebody and find somebody else. If you have a kid and your school calls and says, your kid is throwing up, come get him, you have the choice. You can either lose your job by leaving to get your kid, or you can have DCF at your door because you didn't do that. And with interpreting, with all this flexibility, it really allows women to balance all the various responsibilities that so often we don't get credit for.
Exactly, especially we're all certainly living that today, right? That's going on with us as we speak. I'm Sue O'Connell. I'm at the Boston Public Library. This is Lunch Hour Live. We're taking your questions, your comments, either on social media, on Twitter, Facebook, or YouTube, or you can just raise your hand here at the Newsfeed Cafe. Someone will come over at a safe distance and take your question and bring it on up to us here. Teresa, the first time we met, you were just launching your business.
Yes.
And now here you are, successful with GBH Cupcakes, so we love that. So tell us a little bit about your company.
So Sweet Teez Bakery, we use all nut-free ingredients because I have a nut allergy. I left a job at Harvard doing data analytics and wanted to start a bakery for people like me who really need to know what's in their baked goods. And I went through Food Biz 101 at Commonwealth Kitchen, launched, applied to be a part of the kitchen, and our company has just been growing organically, and it's really nice. One of the things that's really important to me is to make sure that once we get a brick and mortar, which we're looking for, that we're in the Dorchester area, because I am a Dorchester girl, born and raised, and I'm raising my family in Dorchester, and it's a wonderful place to be, and I want other people to come visit us.
Well, we mentioned Commonwealth Kitchen. We're going to show a little video to give folks a little primer on what Commonwealth Kitchen is and how it's helping businesses and business people all across the city. Take a look.
You think about how hard it is and what are all the barriers to getting going, particularly in food, with all the complexities of permits and license and the expensive kitchen that you need. Commonwealth Kitchen is Boston's nonprofit food business incubator. We really are trying to limit all those risks and give businesses a chance, the platform in which they can grow a company.
The challenges that I faced when I started my business was just not knowing how to start a business. Commonwealth Kitchen really gave me the resources here to be able to take it to market.
There's some trial and error with baking. I burnt my first cake, and the executive chef here at Commonwealth helped me figure out why my things weren't operating the same way they do at home. Now I feel like this has really been an education in how to run a bakery.
We like the fact that being here, it taught us a lot how to grow and how to produce, how to look at production in a different way.
Once we came here, we had access to larger facilities, larger equipment, so it allowed us to ramp up our production, to be able to do more so that we can put more food out in a lot less time. So now we can make food for 1,500 people, and it takes us less time than it used to do 150 people.
Being a small business owner is really tough and sometimes very isolating, and so to have this community here when you're having a really bad day and you think, why did I do this, and is this the right decision for me? They're there to say, absolutely, Cherie, this is the best decision you could make, this is what you should be doing, and we believe in you. I definitely wouldn't be where I am today without Commonwealth Kitchen.
So this work has to be gratifying because it's really hard. The idea that we could take down those barriers to give people an opportunity to create these amazing businesses and to connect with people and to feed people and to give people jobs in this neighborhood, that's where the success comes from, and that's what makes all the rest of it worth it.
Teresa, how did you find out about Commonwealth Kitchen, and does the collaborative environment, is it all that it's we talk about how great it is?
100%. I was reading an article on the train about May, which was a company that was producing their sauce out of Commonwealth Kitchen. And I reached out, and they said, hey, we have this class called Food Biz 101. We just started it. It's like all about licensing, scaling, and all the legal things, labeling. So I went and took this class, and it was amazing because I'd never worked in food. Afterwards, I was able to apply to be a part of the kitchen, and I joined in November 2016. But when you talk about the community, even with what's going on right now with the coronavirus, food businesses are really struggling. It's hit us hard, but we are a community and we work together. And so many tears this week, I should tell you, but we're there to really support each other and come up with action plans, even though some of our businesses aren't similar. Like, I'm a baker, but there are caterers who have lost catering gigs, and I'm like, hey, maybe we can work on doing this together or that together. So we really are we're our own little dysfunctional family.
Well, that's kind of redundant. Family dysfunctional, they kind of go together, right?
Well, if I could just add, too, I heard earlier this week from Jen Fagel, who runs Commonwealth Kitchen, and she acts as an advocate for not just the group of professionals that work out of Commonwealth Kitchen, but she really represents the industry in a way, in an advocacy way, and that's really important to have not just the community, but the community that's connected to the local government, to other industry,
because
to the
these
outside
are all
world.
things, we're both in both of these nonprofit worlds and profit worlds. The barriers for women and women of color and women who are immigrants to be able to, and women, to break into these industries, those barriers are starting to melt away by our own initiative, right?
who better to lead the women than the women?
There you go. So let's talk about some of the things that you have done, City Councilor. You've been active. You were a school teacher, as many people know, in East Boston, but you've done some real strong work in the Dorchester community before you were elected. Can you talk a little bit about that? Especially, I see you bought your blanket with you, which when you're 90 years old and people talk about you having a blanket, I will point out that you've always had one with you.
So I do get chilly, but so I bring it with me just in case, because we're near the door. I wasn't sure what the temperature would be.
What's the significance of it, though? Because you've got a history.
The
Not that
significance
particular
of this
one,
particular
but-
blanket. Well, so I'm a city councilor at large, and I'm very proud of my work on the city council. I get to chair the council's committee on education. As you mentioned, I'm a former high school teacher, and we've spent a lot of the last week and the last few days in particular talking about what's happening in our schools and how we as a city are responding to the needs of our residents across the board, but also responding to the needs of our business owners and our retailers and those that are operating and feeling the hit from what's happening nationwide globally. But I also own a small business myself. I own the Stitch House in Dorchester, which is a very cool knitting shop, and here we are in March, so I tend to pull out my green knitwear wherever I can. But being in business, especially being in business in my own neighborhood, is really special and empowering. And it works for me, it works for my family. My shop is up the street from my house, so especially when my kids were a little bit younger, it made being in business a little bit easier. But Dorchester is a wealth of resources, has a wealth of women who are involved in community, involved in business, and I feel really lucky to be able to represent the whole city, but my community of Dorchester in particular.
So each of you has had the opportunity or has in your life left Dorchester but come back. What is there, or decided to stay in Dorchester? What is the pull of Dorchester to you that makes you want to keep calling Dorchester home?
We love Dorchester. So Founder and Translation actually started without an office. Our official address was my home address, which was in Medford at the time, and we operated out of coffee shops, Panera, Starbucks, that sort of thing. And then when we got our first office, it was actually in Cambridge, in a co-working space. And then as our team grew, we really needed a place that's accessible to all the women that we serve. So we needed there to be parking, for there to be good public transportation, for it to be central enough, but also we needed to be able to afford it. So I think one of the beautiful things about Dorchester is that, it is a hidden gem. A lot of people don't realize how great it is. And for us as a nonprofit to be able to be housed there and to have relatively affordable rent, as far as Boston goes, just is huge to us, and we feel a debt to Dorchester for, being able to support us there, and we want to give back to this community.
Teresa, I have a former brother-in-law who's from Dorchester, and there's nothing that would be more annoying than when we were traveling across the country somewhere, and he would see somebody with a Dorchester T-shirt on or some Dorchester emblem on, and it would be like, well, there's a half an hour. We've traveled all the way to Disney so that you can talk to somebody from Dorchester for 20 minutes.
It's all we pack when we travel. It's all we pack.
And it didn't matter, like the background. I mean, not that would have mattered, but it was just like, you're from Dorchester, I'm from Dorchester. Here we are in Orlando. Let's talk about Dorchester.
100%. I live in Dorchester, and my kids go to school in Dorchester. They go to the Henderson. And we run into the principal at Stop and Shop. And I feel like we have such a beautiful community. It's not small, but it's small. It's intimate enough for you to know your neighbors and to be connected. And when things like even what's going on right now, when the wheels started moving and people are like, hey, we need to really have a plan here in Dorchester. If we need, what if there's no school and kids can't get food? Why don't we put together something to try to make sure some of these families will get food and things like that? Our little Dorchester neighborhood blogs are, it's just amazing to see how everybody kind of jumps in and wants to be a part of making sure that our community is as good as it can be.
You're watching Lunch Hour Live here at the Boston Public Library. I'm Sue O'Connell with WGBH. We're here at the Newsfeed Cafe. If you have any questions, we're talking about Women's History Month. We're talking with 3 history makers from Dorchester, in Dorchester, living the Dorchester lifestyle, as we're going to now call it. So if you have any questions, just send it to us via social media or raise your hand here. I want to talk a little bit about the challenges I think that so many neighborhoods are feeling now, the gentrification, issue. Councilor, how's that being handled in Dorchester? It's so big, as you said, it's basically its own town, so you still have areas that are, have opportunity for people to overdevelop. There's still opportunity for folks to go in and build big things if they can get the approvals for it. What's the community at large feeling about development and gentrification?
Well, I think it's a good snapshot of what's happening across the city and really what's happening across the region. The city and Dorchester itself become more and more expensive to live and to stay, and part of my work has been creating opportunities for those who want to live in Dorchester or live in the city of Boston to be able to stay, but we extend that conversation to the cost of doing business in our city. We want to make sure, as the pressures are on homeowners and renters across all of our neighborhoods, those same pressures are felt on our local business owners. And I want Maria to continue to do business here because Fields Corner in particular is such a beautiful cross-section of our city, not just of Dorchester. And we know that most of our neighborhood is accessible by the T. Most of it, not all of it, is accessible by the T, and that creates this vibrancy, this desire to be in this place. So I want businesses to be able to continue to stay and grow and flourish across our city, across our neighborhood, the same way we want our residents to stay. And they go hand in hand. Businesses can't live without our residents. Our residents need our businesses to create that sense of community.
That was a question from our audience, and we have another one here, and I want to frame it in not so much a political way, but just in the kind of evidence of the politics that have been happening, right? So we've just now gone through another primary, and it looks like where we began with the Democrats, we're going to end up where we thought we would, with 2 white guys who are running for the nomination, with a number of highly qualified, certainly capable women who were on the ballot. We're looking at the results of Michigan and seeing, although you're not, I am, and I'm sure you are too, seeing that Hillary Clinton didn't do well in Michigan when she ran, but Joe Biden did, and it makes people wonder, well, maybe people were voting against Hillary Clinton when they were voting for Bernie Sanders. And I'm watching the Hillary documentary, and I'm watching the challenges that, however you feel about her politics or about her agenda, the challenges that are particular to women in trying to be in this world. And I'm wondering, do you still feel like you're coming up against it? You're doing something and then you realize this is an obstacle for me because of my gender.
Every day. It's really interesting because even just in business, so women get like the least amount of funding from investors. Men go out and do it every day, and they're like, great, here's $100K, figure out what to do with that. But, that's one of the things that's a real struggle. And like working with female entrepreneurs to really help us with that entrepreneurial confidence to really go after what we need. Working capital is critical sometimes, and it's a struggle. Like, I make cupcakes, and people are like, oh, that's cute.
That's my business. Right?
It's my business.
It's my business.
But, when you need funding for something, it's a struggle as a woman-owned business. For example, like, even with your knitting shop, they're like, oh, that's cute, you knit. But it's a real business, and it's a viable business.
And it's a business, and for all of us, there are businesses that employ people, mostly other women.
Yes, 100%.
And women tend to do that, and that's really important when we talk about women in entrepreneurship and in business.
Maria, I hear from other folks in the nonprofit world, women in the nonprofit world, how women tend to feel that they have to have a track record before they can ask for funding or before they can ask for grants or trusts or run for office, even if they're just the mayor of South Bend. I mean... And then suddenly there might be a nonprofit that comes along and it's headed by men, and they're already out getting grants before they have shown any proof of work. Do you see that happening? Like, you're like, well, I'm out here doing this, and I have to. Why am I waiting to ask for money when these guys are out doing it? I mean, does that need to change? the dynamic, or I don't know what the solution to that is, to act more like them or to have them act more like you, or just somewhere in the middle?
You know, I think there's truth in that for sure. I think we are more careful because we've been taught that the bar is so much higher for us. But I think there's also a problem in framing it as something that's, you know, like we overthink or we're not confident enough. Because what I see more of is actually, you know, us asking for all the funding that men are asking for. But funders, for some reason, instead of giving us the money, often will create a workshop for us. And the same money that they could have invested into our work that has a track record that is, you know, evidence-based, they'll say, probably you need confidence building, probably need a workshop. And it's like that across the board, not just a nonprofit. Like, I think I don't want another workshop on how to ask for funding confidently. Just fund us.
Yes, 100%.
You know? And I don't want a workshop on how not to get raped. Just stop raping. You know, it's really, what I would say about women is we're not the problem.
No, 100%.
I'd say we're the solution.
Yes.
You know, I'm struck by that because I often see these workshops on how to ask for a raise, you know, which are well-intentioned. I mean, they're always well-intentioned, right? It's no one says we're going to...
Well, I would say, though, sometimes, sorry to cut you off,
ahead.
Sue, that we're asking for that, though. We're asking for that professional development. We're asking to learn, because I think that it is part of
Right,
what
but at
we've
the same
been-
time, they could just give us the raise and
Right,
teach
no,
us how to ask for the raise.
absolutely. But we could also say that out loud, the way
Right.
that Maria has said that
Right,
now.
absolutely.
No, stop giving me the training. Let's just get to it.
Have another question from the audience about Dorchester. Are the Catholic churches still the epicenter of Dorchester the way they were back in the day?
I would say I was raised by a Muslim father who came from St. Margaret's Parish.
And that's how you identify completely, right? I mean, is it churches? I mean, you know, the parishes and the churches, and, you know, to the point, when Dorchester people meet, they often say what parish they're from or what church they went to, even if they don't belong to the church. Does that still happen?
I think it still does it. I think it's one way you identify whether someone truly is from Dorchester. Because if you really, really are, that's where you start.
Has it been fun having a mayor from Dorchester? I mean, you know, I had to admit the other day that occasionally when I'm, you know, overtired, I will think of the mayor of Boston and I think of Tom Menino, and then I have to remind myself that it's Marty Walsh from Dorchester. I'm
going to one-up you. I grew up
Okay.
on the same street as him.
Okay.
So that it's still sometimes a little strange.
Yeah.
Because we've got a friendship that he's a little bit older than me, a little bit more than just a little bit older than me. But we do have a relationship that goes back many, many years. And so sometimes I think that it's odd to see him in that role. But I'm happy that he's somebody that I can call for advice, for help, for championing a particular issue that I'm working on, or to yell at him for something that I disagree with.
I'm sure. So what do people need to know as we start to finish up here? You know, what's one thing folks should know about your company, about your organization, about things that we're aspiring for Dorchester and the city at large?
Dorchester is a great place. There are great businesses there. There's amazing food in Dorchester, and eat more cake.
Where can folks get your Sweet Teez bakery stuff?
Online at sweetteasbakery.com. You can definitely do an order inquiry. Follow us on Instagram, and you know, feel free to place an order.
And Maria, what can folks do to make sure that they continue to support your work?
I would say visit our website, foundandtranslation.org. And we're actually recruiting for our next class. So we've trained 8 classes, 250 medical interpreters so far in more than 40 languages. And any language, what you have to be to qualify is you have to be a woman. And if you consider yourself a woman, we absolutely do too. You have to be low income, and there's guidelines on our website of the income guidelines in Boston. And you do have to be eligible for work in the U.S. because the goal of the program is to get a job, and you have to speak another language in addition to English. And we do test you to make sure you're fluent enough to be an interpreter. But check us out, and if you know any low-income bilingual women, please send them our way.
And it's so I just want to underscore how important it is. And again, you know, we're at Boston Children's Hospital, my daughter and I, at least once a month. And watching interpreters and the important role that they play, both being impartial in communicating the information, but also being comforting, because that's a layer of stress that's taken back. City Council, I just want to check in with you about where we are, COVID-19 coronavirus status for the city while we have you here. You know, I know everything is in flux and things could be totally different by the end of the day. But what's your feeling of confidence about how the city's handling things, how Mayor Walsh is doing, what you guys are doing on the City Council?
I think, you know, I actually did a post about this morning on my
I saw
Facebook
that.
page, because I'm feeling that pressure too, and I feel sort of the responsibility as an elected official, but I feel the responsibility as a mom to make sure that my kids feel comfortable going to school every single day, but recognizing that things are changing day by day, and it's okay to not be okay during this time, to be worried. I think that that's a totally normal feeling, and if you aren't worried or a little bit anxious, then maybe that's not okay. But, you know, our mayor and Governor Baker have been working very closely with their respective Health and Human Services departments on this issue. We have pretty regular check-ins with them. The City Council does, as I know other, you know, players through the hospital and through our community health centers are tied into this, and these conversations are happening. I have a call scheduled this afternoon regarding some of our efforts in our schools. I'm really concerned about our student population, but I'm really concerned about the decisions we make and the impacts those decisions have on our kids for the coming weeks and months ahead. So it is a constant state of flux. It's an ever-changing crisis that we're facing, and one that we're all uneasy about, and I think that that's okay.
And if folks are worried about something, I know that things are moving quickly. Institutions are trying, you know, to do their best. They can't plan for every contingency. You know, this is something, you know, getting kids picked up from school when you didn't expect it. You might not have the money to fly back to California or even take the train to Washington, D.C. But I know that all the elected officials are working, and all the institutions are working to try and solve those problems and give solutions to those problems. So if something's happening to you, probably don't, in that case, don't panic, but try and reach out, right?
And to absolutely reach out. We have so many resources available through either the city's 311 call or use the app. And then also call. If you're not feeling well, call. Don't come in, but call. And we want to make sure that our emergency rooms and our healthcare centers are available for people who truly are sick. And we, you know, with the onset of allergies, it creates another potential crisis. So call, err on the side of caution. You know, we've used so much in the last couple of weeks, this abundance of caution. But act in that way too, and be thoughtful, not just to protect yourself, but to protect others.
All right, thanks to the three of you for coming in. Great to see you again. Great to meet you. Great to see you again. I hope I see you again. Good luck with everything, and we'll reconvene and check in on this. Okay, thanks so much. After we have a cupcake, absolutely. Thank you for watching another edition of Lunch Hour Live with WGBH Live from the Boston Public Library and the Newsfeed Cafe. I'm Sue O'Connell. We'll be back soon, so just keep an eye on this page. Thank you.